Greetings sailors, and welcome to what was supposed to be a CK2 video, except I've had all kinds of technical difficulties today, mainly with the CK2 client itself. So here instead is some warships gameplay courtesy of Jack the Ripper. This time it's the Tashkent, aka the Trash Can, although I don't know if that name's really deserved anymore. I mean, it's probably stuck anyway, just because once upon a time it was not well regarded as a tier 8 destroyer. But since being bumped to tier 9 with presumably who knows what kind of changes along the way, I mean it must have had some changes, then yeah, these days it is rather more well regarded. So Jack here, I don't know exactly what his setup is, but you can at least see that he's running with the heal instead of smoke, which is a choice that you have to make on this thing. And it's quite a significant choice as well. You're giving up the ability to sit in a smoke cloud and just pelt people for the ability to get some health back. But of course, in a gunboat destroyer, that's rather a big thing to give up. The ability to heal some of your health back, however, will hopefully extend your lifespan in a battle, but if you're having to run around in the open and fire, then that might have negative consequences anyway. So there's always an element of luck when you're playing a gunboat and running around in the open and firing at things, in as far as that it just depends who decides to fire back at you. So this is a standard game, Islands of Ice, which is a somewhat unusual sight. I don't get this too often myself. It's usually domination mode on this particular map. And I'll tell you now, I mean, you'll see him drop torps at various points, but he's not going to land a single torp hit. This is all going to be about the gunboating. Now, as regards the gunboating, I can take at least a guess as towards some of his skills. He has got, I'm pretty sure, the concealment module rather than concealment expert. He's definitely got AFT. I would guess BFT, possibly IFHE, and I could probably, like, if I went and looked at the wiki, I would know for sure whether he's using survivability expert as well. But I would guess that yes, he is. Maybe, I'm not 100% certain there, but it would certainly be a solid choice for a Russian destroyer. He does a funny thing here, by the way. This is going to be a theme throughout this entire video, and I'm not sure if this is a generally accepted valid tactic or not. It's not something I see too often myself when I'm playing, but basically, yeah, there are parts of this replay where he slows down to a quarter speed and just lets rip. And by instinct, when playing any kind of gunboat destroyer, is to stay going as fast as possible so that you can maneuver. But if I had to guess, maybe he's going on the theory that A, he can tell when people are pointing their guns at him, and that B, his acceleration will be sufficient that if people do start pointing their guns at him, he can just accelerate and maneuver out of the way. And that sudden change in speed is what will hopefully throw off the enemy. Which, I mean, kind of works in theory, but, you know, there are going to be times when it doesn't work, and there are definitely going to be times in this replay when it doesn't work. So I don't know how efficacious that is really regarded as generally as a strategy, and it certainly works for him in this replay the majority of the time, but it could just be luck. It could just be that the opposing team are choosing to shoot at other people. There's always that element, you know, if you're running around in a gunboat destroyer and whizzing around and making yourself difficult to shoot at, then generally speaking, if there's like a cruiser, a squashy cruiser, or a slow-moving battleship to shoot at, people will tend to go for that instead, especially if they know you're not that big of a threat in terms of torpedoes, which most of the Russian destroyers aren't. Having said that, there are still some people trying to shoot at him. There's at least one right now, and he will attract some fire later on. But once again, slowing down, a little bit broadside. Not fully broadside, but yeah, that time it didn't pay off so much. It really didn't, and that's where the heal comes in useful, I guess. But it was lucky that those were all over pens. I don't know if any of those were full penetrations. Although they might have been, actually. He lost enough damage there that there might have been one, like, full pen in there. Who knows? So his strategy for this game, and this is definitely a good showcase for this particular, you know, whether you're playing a light cruiser or a HE rapid firing gunboat destroyer, his strategy is to set fires. And he is not just focusing on one ship over and over and trying to do damage with his guns. What he's trying to do is set fires. And you'll see him in this replay quite often. Once he's set 1 or 2 fires on one ship, he'll switch to another target and try and set fires on that ship as well. And that leads me to speculate that maybe he doesn't actually have IFHE at all. You know, IFHE will help you in terms of doing damage, but it does slightly negatively affect your fire chance. Not as much as it used to with small caliber guns. I can't even remember what the cutoff is. It's probably, what, 139mm? It usually is for that kind of thing. So, yeah, it will be 139mm. So, yeah, it used to be, it would be, what, minus 2%, 3%? I can't even remember now. And then you could offset that with Demo Expert. But these days it's only minus 1%. But even so, you know, that's 1% less fire chance. And I've got the feeling that he's really going for that fire chance. He is either, you know, counting on battleships just letting a fire burn. Maybe they're healthy and so they let the fire burn and just heal it back later. Or else he's waiting for them to use their damage control party and then just trying to set more fires. And he's already racked up nearly 100,000 damage. So, you know, don't underestimate the power of fires. Fires are absolutely deadly over the long term. But it does count on being able to run around and not get shot at and be able to do that damage over time. You know, this is precisely why it's referred to as dot damage, damage over time. So it's not about doing damage quickly, it's more of a long-term strategy over a game. And this equally goes true for fire setting cruisers as well. So the point doesn't just stand with this particular ship or other Soviet destroyers, it stands for fast-firing HE spammers generally. So that Des Moines used the radar, but I don't think Jack really cares, to be honest. He's just been running around in the open firing at things and trying to set fires. And of the 2 nearby ships that probably were the biggest threat to him, that Des Moines and the Donskoy, I think the Des Moines fired at him like once. I'm not sure the Donskoy's ever fired at him. The only things that have fired at him and done any significant amount of damage have been battleships. So about half of each team is dead. They've lost slightly more ships, so they are down on points, but not catastrophically so. It's actually reversing now. Yeah, I'm not sure I'd be doing this exactly, but anyway. Still, only one of these ships is actively targeting him right now. And there you go, see, set 2 fires, switches to the other target. So if he can get more fires going, well, I'll tell you now, you know, 100k damage is, that's already reasonably impressive considering he's not landed a single torp pit, but that's not the end of it by any means. We've still got a ways to go. So this is, I think, maybe where the element of luck comes in, you know, the fact that he keeps getting the thing popping up that someone's aiming at him. I think it's the Izumo, and it might just be that whilst manoeuvring their turrets weren't able to track on him. But yeah, if both these ships were firing at him, if this was a secondary spec curve first, he would be uncomfortably close right now. And in fact, having said that, yeah, I think we're already getting to see some secondary fire coming in. So he really can't be complacent. And this is why I'm thinking that maybe this strategy of just slowing to a very low speed is a bit risky. A little bit risky, to put it charitably, and maybe even, one might say, at times, foolhardy. But in this replay, he's definitely getting away with it for the most part. So there's always an element of luck when you see these very, very good replays. You know, generally speaking, even if someone was playing very skillfully, there's always, you know, that one shot that bounced, or an enemy player that did something a bit boneheaded or whatever, that then the person whose replay you're watching was able to take advantage of. And really in this one, he's taking advantage of the fact that these ships just, for the most part, aren't firing back at him. So over 130k damage now, and he's obviously got some active fires going at the moment. The torps out once again, but yeah, those aren't going to hit. This is the only drop that looks like it maybe had a possibility of hitting, but the curve first maybe has hydro going, I don't know. It's not like he's been stealthy. He can't stealth drop. You know, his concealment's just over 8 kilometers. His torp range is 8 kilometers. So basically, unless he's in smoke or popping out from behind an island, well, even then, that's not stealth dropping. But so smoke would be the only time he could stealth drop, and he doesn't have smoke. So yeah, but as it is with that maneuvering, the torps all miss. So the two Kurfürsts doing a very close pass by of each other, and there we go. The low health one gets completely blapped, but our own Kurfürst is not looking too healthy. The team in the north is not looking too healthy either. They've actually drawn even on the numbers of ships, and they're even closer now on the actual score. But there are ships coming down from the north which outnumber the retreating ships. The Yagumo in the north does probably have a good chance of making a getaway, but that Montana is surely going to be being focused by all 3 ships that are up there. Well, maybe not the Shimakaze firing at them, but they're almost certainly trying to drop torps if they're up there. So yeah, that's probably not going to go very well. So Jack takes another hit. I mean, if he's just relying on the poor RNG of battleships, that is a very high-risk way to play the game. But it's sort of paid off so far. And at this point, I've actually sped this bit up because he basically drops off the radar, so to speak. Not the actual radar, but, you know, he stealths up so that he can reposition and help out the gearing, because with that just over 8 kilometers base, not base detection, surface detection, his base detection is like 9.6 or something. It's pretty horrible on Tashkent. He's definitely not full stealth in this thing. There's no way he's got both concealment expert and the concealment system with just over 8.1. Anyway, so yeah, he repositions and he's going to basically rely on the gearing to get the spotting for him. And there we go, there's the Shimakaze. So they did lose the Montana. The Kurfürst is hanging on in the south, mainly by taking cover behind an iceberg. And they've also got a rune that's looking unpleasantly healthy. However, it's not just Jack and this gearing here. Their surviving Yagumo is as well. So with a very nicely timed torp drop there, the Yagumo actually managed to take out the rune, which is a very, very, very helpful thing indeed. That is not a cruiser they want to be facing at the moment, especially not something with German hydro. So the gearing has smoked up, and there go the Shima torps, but fortunately the gearing is going to survive. That's very useful for them. And there's the Shima, who actually backed out their smoke, or well, went forward out of their smoke, presumably because it was about to go, but got spotted in the process. So that's them out of the way, and that's their backs secure. So it's down to now just these 2 enemy battleships. And despite the fact that the destroyers have all been occupied with defending the cap circle essentially, and the remaining 2 enemy battleships could have then pushed on the Kurfürst and they could have ganged up on him 2-on-1, they haven't. And so that is actually really useful for Jack's team, because it means they've still got this Kurfürst's firepower available instead of them having to be 3 destroyers versus 2 battleships. Now that still could have worked out. Jack could have borrowed somebody's smoke and proceeded to pummel away, and the 2 battleships themselves, well, neither of them's German, so neither of them has hydro, and so therefore they'd have been hard pressed to deal with torpedo drops from the gearing and the Yagumo. So that still could have worked out, but it's nice to have that Kurfürst of their own left alive as well. So we're steadily marching now towards 200k damage. Can he make it? Well, he's going to get a bit more out of this Izumo. There's more fires set, and he might even get the kill, maybe, but he's not the only person firing at this Izumo, so there's a chance that he won't, but it might be his. And there we go. He actually got the Witherer medal fairly early on, but it's only now, after about double the amount of damage, that he's gotten an Arsonist as well. And that's because the Arsonist relies on doing damage to a specific ship, whereas the Witherer medal, I can't even remember the requirements, but that's one of those more team-based medals. Still though, getting both of them in a single game with a tier 9 destroyer without having launched a single torpedo, because you can get Wither with a torpedo and flooding damage as well, of course. That's not half bad. So there we go, he's managed to breach 200,000 damage, and he's actually gotten a fire going on this Montana as well. And there's yet more possible fires he could have, so yeah, I think he's maybe trying to set fire in the forward section at the moment. There's clearly one going on the mid section, but he's mostly just getting a bit of damage with his guns out of it. Not that that's to be complained about either. And actually, as the Montana starts to pull broadside, he's switching to AP, which he did earlier as well. Because if you can get the upper belt, or more particularly the superstructure, the AP is still fairly effective. So they're in the last minute of this game now, but it doesn't really matter. Jack picks up the final kill and a high caliber and ends that game in fine style with 225,000 damage done, with 17 fires set. That was not bad, I thought. That was not bad at all. I don't think you could have done that in the old trash can, or at least it would have been a lot more miraculous if you had managed it. So top of the team there, over 2k base XP, and although the amount of damage done with the guns was okay, 61,000, it was the fires. It was those 17 fires that he was very deliberately and consciously placing on different targets that netted him over 160,000 damage. So that's what got him that absolutely amazing damage result. Just sprinkling the fires liberally around and gobbling up those hit points as a result. Because if you get multiple fires going on a single target, then that really stacks up quickly, even against a tier 10 battleship, because of course it is based on a percentage. It's not an absolute fixed number of ticking damage, it's a percentage based tick, and so the more health a target has, the higher damage that you're getting per tick, as it were. Even though it's the same proportion of the health as you're doing to, you know, say a destroyer if you set a fire on it. The actual absolute number of hit points is that much higher. So hopefully you enjoyed that replay as much as I did. That was a heck of a match to watch. And if you did enjoy it, you can hit the like button, you can leave any comments below, you can sub to my channel if you haven't already, and as always, stay tuned for more.